I got to know Anthony Baker through my wife. He was working in the sex offender unit when she was a detective there. He was looking for a full-time position, and so she came home one evening and ordered me to hire him.
So I met Chaplain Anthony Baker when I started at the Sheriff's Office a year and a half ago. He currently served as our records clerk upon my arrival. After some time, the sheriff understood that he was a minister, so he used Chaplain Baker to launch our Chaplaincy Corp, which is now an integral part of the Jackson County Sheriff's Office.
Anthony does his job extremely well, and it actually helps us as a department because a lot of things that Anthony takes care of, now we do not have to get involved with. He's familiar, very familiar with what his role and responsibility is at the Sheriff's Department, both in the report custodian and as a chaplain for the Sheriff's Department. He does an outstanding job. He comes to work with a great attitude, and he leaves to go home with a great attitude.
He has held several training sessions to cover PTSD, anxiety, anger issues, and other issues that are relative to our law enforcement career. Some things that we've seen and experienced sometimes has caused us to go into a crisis, sometimes unnoticed and undiagnosed, but he's been able to help us get through, help us process those feelings. And additionally, we've been able to use him to go out on scenes of very traumatic, tragic incidents to also be a resource from the Sheriff's Office to the family to help them go through and guide them through some difficult times.
He saw that we had a need for a chaplain's program. He approached me and asked if I thought it would be a good thing. I told him absolutely. He put everything together. He presented it to the sheriff, and the sheriff said absolutely. And we now have one of the strongest, youngest chaplain programs in Jackson County. And from its inception through Anthony, it has worked outstanding. They've been called out on drownings, they've been called out on homicides, they've been called out on suicides, and every one of the chaplains is exactly like Anthony, a very compassionate, very caring person, and it all reflects back on Anthony as a person.
And I remember him having a file cabinet in the training room, and he had all these files hanging out of the file cabinet, and he used it as an analogy to suggest that if we do not know how to properly file the things in our lives, how we can turn our life into chaos. So that was a very amazing analogy that stuck with me. I think he did that last year, and I still remember that in times of stress for me, that I make sure I'm prioritizing and filing things appropriately.
Me and Anthony are dear friends, and every time we have a conversation with each other, I take something away from that conversation. To actually sit down and speak with him in a long-term conversation is very educating. Anthony is, he's just a person that you really want around all the time. Every day he comes in, every day he comes down to my office. Good morning, Captain, how are you doing? Anything I can do for you? He is just a treat to be at the Sheriff's Department. And he has actually made me a better person for being there.
Because he is a licensed and professional counselor who took a job as a records clerk here, he brings more to the table than just being a records clerk. So all his certification trainings that he's availing to us is certified through the state, and it also gives post hours, so we get continuing education credits just for attending his courses. So he's went through the proper process to vet himself with the state, vet himself with Jackson County and with our sheriff to ensure that not only are we getting adequate training, but that training is going towards our continuing education in law enforcement.
The chaplain's program is a volunteer program, so the fact that he would come and spend an entire day with a family just to make sure that they were getting through whatever their crisis was, to give them the support and the emotional support that they needed, we've gotten tremendous feedback on Anthony. Without a doubt, the kind of guy you want in your organization.